Chapter 1. The Crucible of 5 Points. In the choking summer haze of 1857, New York City's 5 Point slum pulsed with the raw desperation of 20,000 Irish immigrants, a teeming warren of rotting tenements where famine ghosts from the old country mingled with the grind of the New World's underbelly. Narrow alleys like Mulberry Bend festered under laundry lines heavy with rags, the air thick with the stench of overflowing privies, boiling potatoes, and the acrid smoke of coal stoves crammed into single rooms, housing 15 souls, men hacking from lung fever, women birthing in bloodied straw, children dodging rats bolder than stray dogs. These were the survivors of coffin ships that dumped them penniless on the docks, lured by whispers of streets paved with gold, only to find chains of 16-hour days as longshoremen, labourers, and seamstresses for wages barely staving off starvation. Disease was the great leveller. Cholera epidemics in 49 and typhus waves claimed thousands, turning the points into a graveyard where shallow potters' field burials mocked their hopes. Sean O'Leary, 30, forged in this forge of misery, was no stranger to its bite. A burly longshoreman with a Kerry brogue thickened by rage, his broad back scarred from dock bosses' blackjacks and his heart hollowed by loss. His wife and newborn to the 55 fever, his brother trampled in a Bowery brawl. By day, he hauled crates on the East River piers under the watchful eyes of Tammany Hall enforcers, who skimmed half his pay for protection that protected only the bosses. Nights found him in the dingy glow of Kit Burns' Blood Hall, a notorious 5 Points dive where bloodsport dogs tore at rats for bets, and whiskey flowed like the gutter swill outside. Here, amid the roar of cockfights and the twang of fiddles playing The Wearing of the Green, Sean nursed grudges with mates from the Dead Rabbits, the infamous Irish street gang born in the 1830s as a shield against nativist thugs, now a ragged army of 1,000 controlling rackets from Mulberry to the Bowery, their banner a dead rabbit on a pike symbolising defiance. At the rotten core sat Mayor Fernando Wood, the velvet-gloved tyrant of Tammany Hall, whose 1857 re-election bid masked an empire of graft that bled the points dry. Wood, a former congressman with a palatial brownstone far from the slums, peddled city contracts for kickbacks, starved the police of funds to keep his loyal municipal force in pocket, and turned a blind eye to the point's ills while courting Irish votes with empty promises of jobs and temperance exemptions. "Wood's the fox in the henhouse," growled John Morrissey, a Dead Rabbit's heavyweight and ex-prize fighter, slamming his fist on Burns's scarred bar one sweltering June eve. "He takes our ballots, our blood money, then sells us to the Nativists and the Met Police reformers." A crowd of 50, dockers, pavers, and hawkers murmured assent, their faces lit by flickering lamps as tales swirled of Wood's latest outrage, backing a state-mandated metropolitan police to replace the corrupt municipals, threatening jobs and Tammany control. The fuse lit on a blistering afternoon in late June, when state-appointed Metropolitan Commissioner Thomas Acton marched on City Hall with warrants to oust Wood's holdouts. Wood, defiant in his mayor's office, rallied his municipal cops, many Irish lads from the points, to barricade the doors, clubs at ready. Word raced back to 5 Points like a spark on oil. Rival forces clashed outside, fists and batons flying, as Dead Rabbit's enforcers poured in to shield their patron. Sean, hauling lumber nearby, dropped his load and charged into the fray, his shillelagh cracking a Met officer's helm amid shouts of "Tammany forever!" Bridget Kelly, 22, a seamstress widowed by a factory collapse and now stitching in a Baxter Street sweatshop, joined the surge, her brother a municipal sergeant, hurling bricks with a fury born of eviction threats. "No reformers stealing our bread!" she yelled, her voice piercing the melee as blood slicked the steps. By dusk, the skirmish had swelled into the spark of chaos. Gangs like the Bowery Boys, nativist rivals, smelled blood and mobilized, while 5 Points women formed human chains to ferry stones and Molotovs. Wood emerged triumphant that day, his force holding City Hall, but the air crackled with promise of greater storms. The police riot was just the overture. That night in Kit Burns, Sean raised a foaming tankard amid cheers. Wood stands, but the fight's begun. Tomorrow, we show the Met and the Bowery boys what points blood means. Fiddles struck up rebel airs, fists pounded tables, and in the shadows, dead rabbits sharpened blades. 5 Points wasn't merely surviving Tammany's web anymore. It was weaving its own noose for the enemies at the gates. Chapter 2. Shadows of Tammany. As the sun dipped low over the East River on that fateful June day in 1857, the skirmish at City Hall swelled into a full-throated roar, with Fernando Wood's municipal police, loyal sons of the Points, many wielding clubs carved from Irish blackthorn, clashing against the state-backed metropolitan force in a whirlwind of fists, batons, and spattered blood. Sean O'Leary plunged deeper into the fray, his shillelagh, a knobby root from the old sod, cracking against a reformer's helmet with a sickening thud, while Bridget Kelly lobbed cobblestones with precision born of sweatshop fury, her cries of Tammany or death swallowed by the mob's thunder. By nightfall, 8 lay dead on the marble steps, dozens more groaned in the gutters, and Wood emerged from his barricaded office, sweat-streaked but smirking, to declare victory over the usurpers. Word rocketed back to 5 Points like a cannon shot. The mayor stood firm, but the Metropolitan Police Act of 1857, pushed by Governor John King to smash Tammany's grip, meant war was just beginning, with rival gangs smelling the chaos. In the fetid backrooms of Kit Burns' Blood Hall that sweltering night, the dead rabbits coalesced into a storm-ready force under prizefighter John Morrissey, a hulking Irish giant with a boxer's scarred knuckles and a grudge against nativist Bowery boys who'd bashed skulls in earlier turf wars. Morrissey, fresh from rigging Tammany votes and running bare-knuckle bouts for Wood's machine, pounded the bar scarred by rat fights. "The Met's coming for our jobs, lads. Reformers in starched collars want to replace us with Protestants who hate the Pope." Sean, nursing a split lip and a tankard of rock gut, leaned in with 200 others, dockers like himself, pickpockets, and seamstresses turned runners, as plans hatched in whispers. They'd arm with pistols smuggled from the Bowery, slingshots loaded with lead slugs, and barrels of tar to torch barricades. Runners like Bridget would slip through alleys to rally the roach guards and plug uglies, splinter gangs chafing under Tammany's thumb, but united against the outsider blues. Wood's own brother Ben, a municipal captain, slipped in under cover of dark, promising payroll bribes and inside word on Met patrols. Hold the line for the mayor, and the hall delivers. Dawn of July 4th broke humid and electric. Independence Day twisted into a battleground as rumours swirled that Bowery boys, nativist thugs in stovepipe hats, sworn foes of the papist horde, would exploit the holiday to storm 5 Points with axes and revolvers. Wood played both sides masterfully, his Tammany ward healers stuffing ballot boxes with immigrant names, while leaking patrol routes to Morrissey's lieutenants, ensuring municipals accidentally clashed with Mets first. Sean led a squad of 50 rabbits down Mulberry Street, their dead rabbit banner flapping defiantly atop a pike, smashing gas lamps to blind patrols and toppling carts into flaming barriers that choked the bends. Bridget, veins pumping with purpose, darted between tenements, her apron stuffed with bricks and broadsides reading, "Down with the Met tyrants," rallying women to boil pitch and sharpen oyster knives. Skirmishes erupted like firecrackers gone feral, a Met sergeant's head split by a slung stone, a Bowery boy gut-shot in an alley ambush, the air rent by rebel fiddles blaring Gary Owen over pistol pops. By midday, the riot teetered on explosion, with Wood barricaded in his mansion, dispatching messengers to feign surrender while stoking the flames. Morrissey grinned through bloodied teeth in a Baxter Street lair. Let the nativists and reformers bleed each other, the Points rises from the ashes, and Tammany owns the dawn. Sean wiped sweat from his brow, shillelagh slick with use, locking eyes with Bridget amid the smoke. This ain't just for Wood, it's for every grave we dug in this godforsaken maze. Cheers erupted as horns signalled the next push toward Headquarters Square, where Mets massed 1,000 strong. 5 Points' underbelly wasn't defending scraps anymore. It was forging an empire from the Riot's red forge, with greater carnage looming on the holiday horizon. Chapter 3. Blood on the 4th July 4th, 1857, dawned like a powder keg under the merciless New York sun. Independence Day fireworks drowned out by the guttural roars of 5 Points warring mobs as the police riot exploded into New York's bloodiest street melee. From Baxter and Mulberry Streets, John Morrissey unleashed 2,000 dead rabbits, ragged warriors in patched caps and suspenders, armed with pistols, axes, and slung-shot saplings, crashing into the nativist Bowery Boys' lines like a human avalanche, their dead rabbit banner soaked red as it whipped over pistol volleys and meat cleaver swings. Sean O'Leary, shillelagh gripped white-knuckled, spearheaded a wedge down Center Street, splintering a Bowery Boy's rifle butt across a nativist jaw amid screams of "Burn the Pope" and "Tammany forever." Bodies piling in heaps, blood sheeting cobblestones into crimson slicks that sucked at boots, the air choked with black powder stink and the wet rip of blades finding flesh. Fernando Wood, ensconced in his fortified city hall like a spider in silk, orchestrated the carnage with Machiavellian glee. His municipal police, sworn Irish lads from the Points, feinted clashes with the metropolitan force to draw reformers thin, while Tammany runners funneled kegs of free whiskey and ammunition to Morrissey's lairs, ensuring the gang war bled the enemies dry. Bridget Kelly, transformed from seamstress to fury incarnate, commanded a phalanx of Points women on Anthony Street, moles and widows hurling bladder bombs of boiling water and jagged glass from tenement roofs, scalding Met officers below as they shrieked and clawed at blistered faces. "For every eviction, a scalp!" she bellowed, her brother's municipal badge glinting as he covered her flank, ducking slugs from Bowery snipers perched on lampposts. By noon, the riot had metastasized. Plug uglies from Baltimore joined the fray with slung hooks ripping throats. Roach guards torched a nativist printing press belching anti-Irish screeds, flames leaping 50 feet to paint the sky hell orange, while looters dragged bolts of calico and hams from shattered shops. The tipping point crashed at Dead Rabbit HQ, a ramshackle Baxter Street hall where Morrissey made his stand, barricaded with overturned dray wagons and pewter tankards stacked like sandbags. Bowery Boys, 800 strong under Bill Poole's ghost, their fallen leader, hammered the doors with sledgehammers amid a hail of rabbits' return fire, muskets barking, revolvers cracking, one Bowery chieftain's head exploding in pink mist from a rabbit's navy colt at 10 paces. Sean fought shoulder to shoulder with Tim Riley, the one-eyed veteran from Kit Burns, parrying a nativist Bowie knife that grazed his ribs hot and wet. Across the melee, Bridget dragged a wounded rabbit to cover, staunching his gut spill with her apron, as cannonade thunder rolled from militia guns, finally rousing uptown. 8 hours of hell claimed over 100 lives, torn scalps dangling from rabbit pikes, severed ears pocketed as trophies, the gutters foaming red to the sewers, yet Wood's municipals held key wards, their blue coats smeared gore but unbroken. As dusk bled purple over the smouldering corpse piles, militiamen in state uniforms, dispatched by Governor King, finally flooded the Points with Minier rifles and grape-shot howitzers, shattering rabbit lines with volley fire that punched through barricades like God's wrath. Morrissey, blood streaming from a cleaved brow, roared retreat orders through couriers. "Fall back to the bends. Live to fight Tammany's war." Sean, hauling Bridget from a collapsing alley roof amid flaming timbers, glimpsed Wood's carriage slipping away unscathed, the mayor's smirk visible through lace curtains. Cheers turned to curses as grapeshot whistled, felling dozens in the stampede. But the rabbits melted into Mulberry Bend's rat maze tenements, ghosts in their own domain. The riot's red harvest secured Wood's grip for one more precious day, but as militia drums echoed retreat signals, Sean rasped amid the rubble. "They broke our bodies, not our fire. The election dawn brings reckoning." 5 Points lay gutted and glorious, its blood oath sealed in the riot's forge, victory's shadow looming for the final electoral clash. Chapter 4. Triumph from the Ashes. Dawn broke grey and smoke-hazed over 5 Points on July 5, 1857, the riot's embers still crackling amid corpse-strewn alleys, where militiamen prodded gutted tenements with bayonets, hauling dead rabbit survivors in irons, while nativist Bowery boys licked wounds in Bowery saloons. Fernando Wood, unscathed in his City Hall redoubt, seized the chaos as his chariot. Tammany Hall's ward healers, slippery operatives like Benjamin Wood, flooded the streets with brass bands and free pork barrels, chanting, "The mayor saved the Irish," to sway the immigrant throng reeling from grapeshot's sting. Sean O'Leary, ribs bandaged by Bridget Kelly's steady hands in a Mulberry Bend hideout, spat blood and rallied 500 battered rabbits. "They shot us down, but ballots are our bullets now. Morrissey leads the vote." John Morrissey, brow stitched but fire unquenched, nodded grimly, his prizefighter's frame looming as he divvied smuggled cash from Tammany coffers to buy loyalties in the Points polling dives. The special mayoral election of July 1857 ignited like dry tinder. Wood, defying state orders to vacate, ran on a platform of Irish rights and Tammany strength, pitting his municipal machine against reformer Daniel Tiemann and nativist holdouts. Polling stations became battlegrounds. Rabbits guarded Baxter Street urns, with slungshots hidden under coats, intimidating Met police, while women like Bridget slipped bribes wrapped in green ribbons to voters staggering from collar awards. Sean captained a flying squad, smashing rival ballot boxes in nativist wards and ferrying phantom voters, dead men's names inked fresh, across the East River by skiff under pistol cover. By dusk, as fiddles wailed triumph in Kit Burns' rebuilt hall, returns poured in. Wood clinched 52% in a torrent of stuffed votes and muscle, the state courts howling fraud, but powerless, as Tammany judges stonewalled injunctions. Crowds surged City Hall steps, Sean and Bridget atop a dray wagon waving the dead rabbit high. No more reformers' chains, the Points rules its fate. Victory rippled outward like a stone in the Hudson. Wood's grip locked Tammany's empire for years, birthing reforms twisted to favour the Irish. More police jobs for Points lads, sewer contracts funneled to rabbit-friendly builders, even temperance laws bent for saloon kings. Morrissey parlayed Riot fame into a state assembly seat, his bare-knuckle clout taming nativist remnants. Bridget, hailed Points' brick queen, opened a seamstress co-op funded by Tammany graft, lifting dozens from sweatshops. Sean, scarred but standing tall, married her under St. Patrick's spire, their first child born free of fever's shadow as 5 Points' first paved block gleamed under gaslight. Yet shadows lingered. Wood's 1861 secession flirtations and Civil War draft riots would test the machine anew, but 1857's blood price forged an unbreakable spine. Years later, as skyscrapers clawed the skyline over Mulberry's ghosts, old rabbits like Sean toasted in dim pubs. We bled for scraps, rose with the fox. The police riot etched 5 Points into legend, not as defeat, but defiant dawn. From slum inferno to ballot blaze, the Irish underclass didn't just survive Tammany's web, they spun it into power, proving muscle and mischief could crown kings from the gutters. Hell's Kitchen, Bowery, Points. Their echoes thundered on, a gritty hymn to the bone and sinew triumph.